Hi everyone, Carl Fredrickson here with Rhyme Signatures, the nerdiest music review this side of stubbornly blocking the city planning department for decades before going on a joyride to South America in your floating house. And today we are going to be doing a review of the new The World Is Quiet Here album, Zon. A sophomore record is often considered one of the most difficult phases in any band's career, really. Especially if their debut was notable as being one of the strongest yet most underappreciated albums of the 2010s. And The World Is Quiet Here's second record, Zon, is no exception to this rule. This Wisconsin-based quintet came onto the scene in early 2018 with the frankly dazzling album Prologue. And despite the name's implication of something that would only show glimmers of hope and opportunity, it was a stacked, full-bodied and absolutely captivating slice of premium between the Buried in Me style progressive metal, chock full of catchy hooks, savage vocals and complex musical passages. It was honestly nothing short of a triumph, and was a record that immediately catapulted the band to the top of my ones to watch list going forwards. So I watched and watched, waited and waited, and I started to fear that the band was going to go the way of the likes of Native Construct and disappear into the ether, having only provided us with one, admittedly excellent, record in their brief existence as a band. But here we are in 2023 AD, and I have before my trembling ears a copy of the band's latest output, the succinctly titled Zon. It's been 5 long years since Prologue came out, and things have certainly changed for the band. 4 of the founding members still remain, though, that of guitarists Isaac Stolzer-Gary and Ethan Fellhofer, bassist Tyler Dworak and drummer David Lamb. But Zon sees the debut of new vocalist Lou Kelly, who steps in to replace previous microphone pundit Tyler Colts. Now, this is always a scary thing I find with a band, as I am personally of the opinion that the vocalist is often the heart and soul of a group. We can't all play an instrument after all, but we can all at least try to sing along with our favourite songs, be that in the shower, the car, or at a live performance. The vocalist represents us, the listener. They tell the literal stories, they connect to us in ways that the instrumental parts just don't. Any one of us can sing along, and I personally feel that vocals are one of the least appreciated but most important parts of a progressive metal band, and also the fulcrum on which a band balances. I mean, how often do you hear people say that they would love a band were it not for the guitarist, or they just can't get into an album because of the drummer? Almost never, let's be real here. It is the vocals that make or break things for so many people. I mean, case in point, Dream Theater, Rush, Haken, Yes. There are so many bands where the guy behind the microphone is the Marmite on the cheese on toast that is the rest of the ensemble. So, how does this bring us to The World Is Quiet Here? Well, on Prologue, one of the strongest parts for me was Tyler Colts. He had such a distinctive sound and an incredible range. It really felt like he was an integral part of what made me love that record so much. It only felt natural to me to have a pang of hesitation when I saw that he was no longer providing the pipes on Zon, and we've got this new guy, Lou Kelly, who is untested and unknown. Frankly though, I needn't have worried, as Kelly is honestly one of the most absurdly fascinating vocalists I've ever heard in any progressive metal band. But he is certainly going to divide opinion, and certainly going to be the deciding factor as to if people enjoy this record or not. I was not prepared for the scope and scale of his vocals. 1 minute we're drenched in the traditional guttural death metal growls so oft associated with clear influences between the Buried in Me. But then we kick things up an octave or two into a black metal pig squeal, and then drop down low into a kind of Leonard Cohen-y kind of baritone clean, and then onto the stage as a Shakespearean orator addressing the groundlings. It is a non-stop roller coaster ride, and it's impossible to know where Kelly is going next. From a demonic banshee 1 minute to a deep bassy impression of Yellow's classic 90s one-hit wonder Oh Yeah, he will leave you guessing throughout the entire record, never really knowing just what the hell he's about to lead with this time. And I can appreciate that this inconsistency won't be to everyone's liking. It can feel a little haphazard and uncertain of itself at times, especially on the first few listens. The angular ricocheting of Kelly's vocals did leave me a little dizzy at times, and I won't pretend that there were times where I kind of wished he'd settle on a style for a bit longer than he was giving us, especially in the front half of the record. But the more I listened to Zon, the more I warmed to this scattershot style of vocals, and the more I began to understand how it fit the story and the mood of the music perfectly. It began to make sense. There was an undeniable method to the madness, and I started to enjoy and appreciate the whiplash nature of the stylistic shifting and how well the band was performing to keep up with him. Kelly is a superb fit for the band's complex, anarchic stylings, and I couldn't be more delighted with his performance on Zon, and I sincerely hope that he is with the band in the long term. So, let's talk about music. Just what the heck kind of album is this? So last year I compared an Abstract Illusions Woe very favourably to Opeth's Blackwater Park, and now I find myself comparing Zon to another erstwhile classic of Between the Buried and Me's Colours. Yes, my favourite album of all time. I am feeling pretty comfortable making this comparison, given that they have a similar metalcore body with progressive structures and patterning built around it. Both are a single unbroken piece of music divided into sections rather than songs. Both are relentless in pace, neither giving much room for breathing over the course of its length, and both have given me cause to injure my neck muscles whilst listening to them. The record opens with Argo Navis Solar, which is a wonderfully concise 2-minute opener that manages to showcase a perfect slice of the madness that is about to unfold over the coming hour. Kelly showcases his vocal range almost immediately, and the guitar tone is thick, sharp, and addictive. The first principal song, White Sun, manages to demonstrate that Colours era Between the Buried and Me style beautifully, but with the band's own unique identity stamped firmly across its runtime. Furious guitar work and beastly breakdowns accompany Kelly's absurd range and serves as a perfect example of just what Zon is all about. Ossuary is where things really step up a notch and the band's own personal identity really shines. They prove to the listener here that they are more than just the sum of their influences, and they are truly a band with their own message, their own style, and it's sodding brilliant, quite frankly. Kelly continues to impress, managing to segue between a deep baritone clean, high-pitched shriek, guttural growling, and kind of a Dark Knight Rises Bane opera. It's possibly the most kombucha face I've ever felt whilst listening to anything, but ultimately by the end of it I'm left grinning like an idiot. The centrepiece of the album is undeniably the 2-part Heliacal Vessels, serving as the kind of 23-minute epic, and it easily manages to stand toe-to-toe with some of the best examples of the genre in recent years, easily outdoing their clear influences by managing to handle the everything but the kitchen sink approach really quite deftly. The opening clean guitars that bleed in from the preceding track are complex and interesting, and the song wastes little time in battering you about the eardrums with its high-tier Ants of the Sky and Son of Nothing emulation. Things do calm down a little bit towards the end of the first half, The Mothers of No Kin, giving a much-needed chance for you to catch your breath, but it's only brief. Zon is most assuredly a record of extremes. It is not especially interested in taking things slowly or methodically. It is a record that insists upon itself almost to a fault. Heliacal Vessels oftentimes feels like it might be going into extremity for extremity's sake, but it never feels unnecessary. The band absolutely has its hands on the wheel at all times during this epic, so for as chaotic and complex as it does become, there's never any sense that they've lost control of the overall vision and direction of the music. It's a kind of beautiful, disorganised chaos, kind of like watching somebody throw paint haphazardly onto a canvas, never really knowing quite what they're actually doing, but then at the end, when you take a step back, do you really realise exactly what they were trying to achieve, and that the band always knew where this was taking them. It's a spectacular piece of music on an album that doesn't relent, and it manages to keep your attention front and centre for the whole duration. Things continue very nicely, with the 2-hit combo of Aphelion and Moonlighter being especially toothsome, with the latter featuring a surprise appearance from Max Mowbray, vocalist from Others by No One, who incidentally had one of my favourite records of 2021. It's actually kind of interesting to me that he jumps on board here, as he is a similarly divisive vocalist from an equally creative band. I would probably go as far as saying that if The World Is Quiet Here are Between the Buried and Me, then Others by No One are most assuredly Dream Theater. But I feel maybe that's a discussion for another time, as I don't want to get too derailed here whilst I'm trying to review Zon. In any case, though, make sure you go and listen to Book 2, Where Stories Come From, as, well, dang, quite frankly. The album closes out with Writhing Gate and Impetus 1, Torrid Sands, and it's hard not to think of this as being up there with some of the best album closers I've heard in recent years. The band simply hasn't taken their foot off the accelerator for the entire album, so You'd think that after nearly 60 minutes of non-stop frenetic guitar work, savage double bass drums and soaring vocal melodies, the band would be kind of running out of steam at this point. But no. Just like in a Fast and the Furious film where every dramatic stick shift results in the car being able to defy physics with increasingly preposterous results, The World Is Quiet Here managed to up the ante once again in the 11th hour with this insane 9-minute closer that really has to be heard to be believed. Now, I've been incredibly positive about this album over the course of this review, and I feel that my praise is entirely justified, but this is not an album that everyone will enjoy. It is almost a little bit too extra at times, and I did occasionally find myself wanting the band to just calm down a little bit, as the sheer scale of the insanity on offer can be entirely overwhelming at times. Kelly's vocals, as I've mentioned earlier, will 100% make or break this album for you, and I went into this, though, completely unprepared for how ridiculous things get. And as such, my first couple of listens had kind of a lot of my energy focused on if I was actually enjoying his singing or not, completely neglecting the dazzling technicality from the rest of the band, which honestly stands toe-to-toe with the best in the business. I'm hoping, though, that if you approach this record knowing that the vocals are as weird as they are, will help you to focus on the bigger picture and appreciate the fullness of the work that has been put into this astonishing record. So, what else can I say about The World Is Quiet Here's Zon? Now, I'd been anticipating a follow-up to Prologue for quite some time now, and I can confidently say that this didn't disappoint as a sequel to that record. The fact that it transitions in perfectly from the final track on that record is the delightful icing on the cake, indicating that the two records are designed to function together as one continuous piece. And that this has been done a full 5 years after the first one came out. It is so delightfully prog, and it really did make my brain do the happy chemicals when I realised this. Even more so than the original record, though, Zon is a love it or hate it album. The band are most assuredly staying true to what they want to create, and despite some initial misgivings I might have had about Kelly's vocals, by the time I finished my 5th playthrough, I think it was, I had honestly just become obsessed, and I now consider him to be one of the most fascinating voices in modern prog. I've no idea where he came from, but I really hope that the band never muzzles him, and he continues to demonstrate his shockingly flexible range. Album 3 from this band cannot come soon enough, but for now, I recommend that you spend some time with Zon, check out Prologue as well, and I would definitely recommend that if you can do, you pick this one up in physical format. Not especially easy right now, small band and all that, but send them some love, give them some support, send them your money. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to listen to this one again with the lyrics in front of me as I continue to try and get my head around the deeply complex and thoroughly interesting story. This, guys, as you well know by now, is just my opinion, so if you have listened to this one, please tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. If there's anything else coming out this year that you think I should maybe check out, please do let me know about it. I'd love to get around to giving it my own thoughts. If you did like this video, please do share it around with anyone else who you think might enjoy it. Please do consider subscribing for some more content. And of course, as always, if you really like what I do, please also consider clicking my Ko-fi link in the description below to help support the channel. Until next time, guys, keep your rhyme signatures odd.